Good evening children, welcome to YEP Master School Foundation Program. I am your chemistry teacher. We are discussing about the chemical classification of matter. In the last class we have gone through some of the concepts of element, the different elements that are present in the periodic table, how we can classify the elements into gaseous form as well as the liquid form and solid forms, how we can classify the elements into metals and non-metals. Okay. So, today let us discuss about the elements classification into metals as well as the non-metals and metalloids. And before we proceed for the metalloids, let us even focus on the differences between the metals and non-metals. Okay. So, among all elements in the periodic table, if we observe, we have more than 75 percentage as metals. So, we know that we have 118 elements in the periodic table. So, among the 118 elements in the periodic table, around more than 75 percentage are metals only. So, among the 118 elements, more than 75 percentage are coming out to be metals. And if we observe where we can see the metals in the periodic table, we can see the metals in the periodic table at the left side of the periodic table. So, in the last class we have seen the periodic table, right. So, there we can see clearly that the metals are occupying the left portion of the periodic table. So, left side portion of the periodic table is completely occupied by metals only. So, the metals can be seen on the left side of the periodic table, and generally these are solids at room conditions. Okay. So, if you observe the metal, some of the examples can be seen here: iron, aluminium, copper, etc. And when you observe the melting and boiling points, metals generally possess high melting and high boiling points. So, the melting and boiling points are very high in the case of metals, okay, because they are existing as solids at room conditions. So, the melting and boiling points we can expect them to be the highest among all the elements, and they are good conductors of heat and electricity. They conduct heat and electricity. So, because of the presence of the electrons in the free electrons in the case of metals, they can conduct the electricity and they can conduct the heat. Okay. These are malleable and ductile. So, they can be converted into very thin sheets, or they can be converted even into small very thin wires. Okay. So, the properties can be taken as malleable and ductile. Okay. These will react with the acids. As the metals react with the acids, they generate or they liberate hydrogen gas. So, hydrogen gas is going to be liberated when metals are going to react with the acids. Okay. So, you can clearly see the pictures of some of the metals. So, when you elaborate, you can clearly observe here, this is aluminium, this is iron, okay, and this is copper, this block is copper, and of course, steel is a combination of metals, brass is also a combination of metal, bronze is also a combination of metal. These are the metal sludges, the what do you call, the small portion that are left after the usage. Okay. So, if you observe the steel, brass, bronze, these are all generally called as alloys. Alloys are obtained by the combination of different metals in different proportions. For example, if you take brass, in this case we can have copper as well as zinc. Okay. And in the case of bronze, we can have copper and tin. So, copper and tin are present in the case of bronze, whereas copper and zinc are present in the case of brass. Okay. So, steel is a combination of iron with other elements. So, we can get different kinds of steels depending upon the requirement. Okay. So, metals are occupying major portion in the periodic table. They are major in number in compared with the other elements in the periodic table, and they are going to have many applications as well. Okay. Coming to the next ones, non-metals. What are non-metals? About 1 dozen. What do you mean by dozen? Dozen means 12, right? So, about 1 dozen elements are non-metals. How many elements are non-metals in the periodic table? So among the 118 elements, among the 118 elements that are available in the elements that are available in the nature, that are available in the periodic table, if you observe only around 1 dozen, that is 12 are non-metals. So the non-metal composition or the non-metal number is very less in the periodic table. Okay. So 118 elements, more than 75% are metals, and when you observe the non-metals, only 1 dozen elements, only 12 elements, approximately 12 elements are non-metals in periodic table. Okay. Where we can find the non-metals? Non-metals can be seen at the top right hand side of the periodic table. So in the periodic table, what we have seen in the last class, you can observe the top right side and top portion. Okay, right side and top portion, if we observe, we can find the non-metals. So you can count the number of non-metals, and they are coming out to be around 12 only. Okay, you can clearly see here some of the non-metals are given: sulfur, nitrogen, selenium, bromine. So bromine, nitrogen, sulfur, selenium, they are considered as non-metals. They are occupying the right top portion of the periodic table. Okay. These are generally, as I told you when we are discussing the last class about the liquid elements, there we have come across mercury and bromine, right. Mercury is the only metal which is liquid at room temperature, and bromine is only non-metal which is liquid at room temperature. So under room conditions, bromine is a liquid. Similarly, mercury is also a liquid. Okay, mercury is a metal which is liquid in nature. Bromine is a non-metal which is liquid in nature. But what about the other non-metals? Other non-metals, most of them are gases under room condition. For example, oxygen, nitrogen, fluorine, chlorine, most of them are gases under normal room conditions. So they are usually gases under normal conditions, except the bromine which is liquid at a room condition. And since they are gases at room temperature, if we observe their melting and boiling points, generally they are going to possess low melting and boiling points. In the previous week, we have discussed about the conversion of matter, one form to the other form. There we have discussed a solid can be converted into a liquid can be converted into a gas. Okay. So when you compare with these ones, automatically this is the last stage, generally what we consider when we are looking only the 3 states of matter, solid, liquid and gas. So gas is the higher, or it is the having highest temperature, you can say highest temperature when compared with the solid and liquid composition of the same matter. Okay. Since if we observe metals, what are the metals? Metals generally, how, in which physical state they are existing in the periodic table in nature? In nature, metals are existing in the form of solids. Okay. So solids then can be converted into liquids by applying high temperature, and liquid can be converted into gas by applying the temperature. So therefore we can say that solids, the metals, will have higher melting and boiling points. But what about the non-metals? Non-metals under room conditions, non-metals under room conditions, they are existing as gases, they are existing as gases. Okay, they are existing as gases under room conditions. Already they are in the gaseous form. So if I want to convert it into liquid form, what I have to do? I have to decrease the temperature. I have to decrease the temperature. Again, converting a liquid into solid form, I have to decrease the temperature. So what is the melting and boiling points of these non-metals? Generally they are low. So non-metals possess low melting points and boiling points. So the boiling points and melting points of non-metals are very low, whereas the melting and boiling points of the metals are very high. Metals possess high melting and boiling points, whereas non-metals possess low melting points and boiling points. What about the conductivity in case of non-metals? These are poor conductors. Metals are good conductors. Okay. Metals, they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Okay. whereas non-metals, if you observe, non-metals, they are poor conductors. They are poor conductors. Metals are good conductors. The main reason for the metal to be acting as a good conductor is the presence of electrons, free electrons. Whereas non-metals, they don't have any free electrons, therefore they show poor conductivity. So poor conductivity is observed in the case of non-metals. Non-metals will have poor conductivity of heat and electricity. Okay, right. So if you observe the non-metals, you can clearly see the sulfur, nitrogen, selenium, bromine, we can take them as the non-metals. Okay. So let us find some differences between metals and non-metals. Let us discuss some of the differences that we come across in case of metals and non-metals. So if we observe the property, so here first column we are going to take the property which we are going to compare between metals and non-metals. So metals here taken and non-metals are taken here. And when you observe the state, state means physical state, okay, physical state, state means here physical state, that is their appearance under normal condition, how they are going to present, they are present in the form of a solid, or they present in the form of a liquid, or they are present in the form of a gas. So that is what we are going to see here, physical state. Generally when you look at the metals, metals are solids at room temperature. Metals are solids at room temperature, but we observe mercury. Mercury is a metal, but of course mercury is a metal, it is a liquid, except the mercury, except mercury, all other metals are solids at room temperature. What about mercury then? Mercury is a liquid, mercury is a liquid at room conditions. So at room condition mercury is a liquid, other metals are solids, most of them are solids, there is no doubt, only exception is mercury. Coming to the non-metals, so here if we observe most of them are gases, most of the non-metals are in the form of gas, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, etc. But of course we have an exception here, bromine is a liquid, bromine is a liquid. So except with bromine we can say bromine is a non-metal, but it is a liquid at room condition. Okay. So most of them are gases under normal conditions, under room conditions the non-metals are gases, but we have a non-metal which is liquid, that is bromine. So exception is bromine, bromine is a non-metal, but it exists as liquid at room conditions. Okay, right. Melting points and boiling points. We have seen in the previous class regarding the conversion of one matter physical state of matter into other. When we are converting a solid into liquid, solid into a liquid, what is happening? Melting takes place. So here we come across the melting point. Okay, a liquid can be converted into gas. When it is going to happen? It is going to happen at its boiling point. Okay. So for the conversion of a solid into liquid, the temperature at which a solid can be converted into liquid is called as melting point, and the temperature at which a liquid can be converted into gas is called boiling point. Okay. Of course, when you compare the melting and boiling points in these cases, the metals are generally going to possess very high melting points and boiling points. Metals can possess very high melting points and boiling points, whereas non-metals, if we observe, non-metals generally possess low melting points and low boiling points. Non-metals will have low melting points and low boiling points, whereas metals will have very high melting and high boiling point. Why it is so? Because of the arrangement of the atoms within the molecule, and thereby the metals are existing in the form of solids. So generally their melting and boiling points will be high. In the case of gases, because of the arrangement of the particles within the non-metals, they are existing in nature as a gas, and therefore they are going to possess low melting points and boiling points. Okay students, I think it is very clear from the point of view the physical state existence and their corresponding melting and boiling points, right. And when you look at the hardness, metals are generally hard because they are solids at room temperature. So automatically they are going to be very hard. Okay, but of course the non-metals which are solid at room conditions, the solids in the case of non-metal, generally the sulfur you can take, selenium, these are generally the non-metals which are existing as solids at room condition. But of course when you look at the solid nature, they are not hard, they are brittle, they are smooth little. Okay, brittle. The non-metals which are solids at room condition, they are brittle in nature, they are not hard at all, they are soft. And we can say sulfur and selenium generally generally they exist as a brittle solids at room conditions. Okay. And when you look at the conductivity with respect to the heat as well as electricity. Okay. Heat as well as electricity. So the metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. So among the metals, if you observe, silver is going to show high conductivity. Silver will show high conductivity. So high conductivity is possible for silver, Ag. We represent the silver with Ag. Okay. So metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. It is mainly because of the presence of electrons. Okay. When we have mobile electrons, the mobile electrons can easily move throughout the given crystalline substance, thereby they will show the conductivity. So the conductivity can be seen, good conductivity can be seen within the case of metals. In the case of metals, we can see the good conductivity, but in the case of non-metals, they are all bad conductors of heat and electricity because they do not possess any mobile electrons. Since mobile electrons are not present, they are bad conductors of heat and electricity, right. Next is luster property. What do you mean by luster property? It is the shining property. Okay, luster means shining property. So which metals or non-metal will shine? Generally metals will shine, they will have the shining property. Non-metals, they won't shine. Non-metals won't shine, metals will shine. How? For example, if you take gold ornaments, silver ornaments, they shine, right. So the shining property is associated with the metals only, not with the non-metals. Metals are showing shining property, they have luster property. Gold, silver, copper, iron. So you can take any metal, generally they exhibit the shining property, whereas non-metals are not shiny. Okay, right. Let us compare some more properties, the malleability and ductility. Okay, malleability means it can be drawn into sheets. So drawing into the sheets. Ductility means it can be drawing into the wires. Okay, malleability. So metals generally show the malleable and ductility properties, whereas non-metal they won't show. Okay, so the property of metal by which they can be beaten into thin sheets. So making the metal into thin sheet is generally called as malleable. Okay, so metals are malleable. Similarly, ductility can be seen with respect to metals only. The property of metals by which it can be drawn into wires. So converting them into wires. Okay, drawing the metals into in the form of wire, making the metal into a wire is shown by the metals, and the property is known as ductility. And when you look at the non-metals, non-metals are non-malleable and they are non-ductile. They cannot show the malleable property and ductility property. So non-metals are not going to exhibit malleability as well as ductility property. Non-metals cannot be drawn into sheets, non-metals cannot be made into wires. So they cannot be made into wires, they cannot be converted into sheets. Why it is so? Because they in nature exist as gases, and some of the non-metals are existing as solids at room condition, but they are very soft. So they cannot be converted in the form of a wire, or they cannot be converted in the form of a sheet. So therefore we can say that non-metals are non-malleable and non ductile. They cannot be converted into sheets, they cannot be converted into wires. Okay. Yeah, one more property that we can observe in the case of metals and non-metals is the sonorous property. Sonorous means the sound giving property. Sonorous means sound giving property, which will give sound. I think you have observed it in your home. When you take a steel plate and beat it with a spoon, steel spoon, you can feel the sound, right? So, when you take iron rod and hit with one stick on it, automatically you can see the sound. So, the sound can be seen or the sound can be produced. Which kind of sound? The ringing sound can be produced by metals. So, metals will have the sonorous property, whereas non-metals are non-sonorous. What does it mean? They cannot produce any ringing sound when they are beaten up, but metals, they will produce ringing sound. So, the production of ringing sound, the giving the sound that is produced is generally taken as sonorous property. So, metals are sonorous in nature, whereas non-metals are non-sonorous. Okay. They cannot produce any ringing sound when we are going to beat them. Okay. So, this is the general property that you can clearly observe with respect to the metals. And moreover, metals are solid state room conditions, so they can clearly produce a sound, but whereas non-metals are gases, so you cannot make a sound out of a gas. Okay. So, therefore, the non-metals are non-sonorous, they will not give any sound. Okay. The third category of elements we come across in periodic table are metalloids. What are they? They are metalloids. How to define the metalloids? So, these are the elements which are going to exhibit the properties of both metals as well as non-metals. These are the elements which are going to exhibit the properties of metals as well as non-metals. So, some properties of these elements will match with the metal properties, some properties of these elements will match with the non-metals. So, we can say that these are the elements which can exhibit the properties of metal and the properties of non-metal. Therefore, they are termed as, they are called as metalloids. They are going to exhibit the properties of metal and they also exhibit the properties of a non-metal, and therefore, they are called as metalloids. They are called as metalloids, right. For example, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, selenium, all are the best examples of metalloids. Germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, selenium are the best examples of metalloids. You can see the sample: tellurium, arsenic, germanium, antimony, they are all solids, you can clearly see. Okay. So, you can see the metalloids: tellurium, arsenic, antimony and germanium. So, if we observe, so far we have seen that elements can be categorized into metals, non-metals and metalloids. Okay. Metals, non-metals and metalloids. Okay. So, here as we have discussed, even the total periodic table, if we observe, the total periodic table if we observe, metals are present in more than 75 percentage. How much percentage we have metals? More than 75 percentage. So, metals and metalloids and non-metals put together, metalloids and non-metals put together, they are less than 25 percentage, they are less than 25 percentage. Okay. And where we can see the metals in the periodic table? If we observe here, what is this yellow one? Yellow ones are alkali metals. This one is alkaline earth metals. What about this light blue colored area? Transition metals. And what about this green area, light green as well as the green? These are inner transition elements, inner transition metals, you can say lanthanides and actinides. So, most of the portion, so you can see here, so from here this area, total area including these ones, okay, the bottommost elements that are kept at the bottom, the lanthanides and actinides, total area if you observe, they are all metals. So, total portion, in which area the metals are present in the periodic table, they are present in the left side of the periodic table, and moreover most of the area if you observe, they are all coming out to be metals only. So, the total portion is metal, only this portion left is taken as non-metals and as well as metalloids. This portion if we observe, this is the area where we can find metals as well as non-metals, and metals are also present in this case. Metalloids are there, non-metals are there, and metals are also present. So, we can even include this area also as the metals, okay, this area, okay. So, this area can be also included as metals. So, only the other portion left is taken for the metals, the non-metals as well as metalloids. So, most of the portion in the periodic table is occupied by metals only. So, if you observe clearly, so we can clearly see that up to this portion, up to this border in the periodic table, okay, up to this portion in the periodic table if you observe, they are all metals, okay, this total area, this total thing is metals only, okay. And if you observe this area, the other area is a combination of non-metals and metalloids, okay. And as we have discussed about non-metals, only around 1 dozen elements are non-metals. You can see here the non-metals, you can see the non-metals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, around 12 elements we can see as non-metals in the periodic table, okay. Then the light green colored ones if you observe, they are all occupying the portion between metals and non-metals. So, they exhibit the properties of metals and as well as non-metals. So, they are termed as metalloids, okay, they are termed as metalloids. So, germanium is a metalloid, arsenic metalloid, okay, antimony metalloid, tellurium metalloid, polonium, selenium, they can be considered as metalloids. Metalloids in the sense they are going to exhibit the properties of metals as well as non-metals. Because the one more thing you can clearly observe, up to here we have metals and then we have non-metals. So, between non-metals and metals, we have some elements, they are termed as metalloids. They are the they are the bridge between metals and non-metals. One side we have non-metals, this side we have metals. So, in between we have a bridge, that bridge is metalloids, okay. So, these are the elements which are going to connect the metalloid to the metal property, then to the non-metal property, or non-metal to the metal property, and these elements are said to be metalloids, okay. They are going to exhibit the properties of metal as well as the properties of non-metal. So, you can clearly see that a major portion of the periodic table is occupied by metals and a very small portion is occupied by non-metals, and still smaller portion is occupied by metalloids. Metalloids you can see very less number compared with the non-metals. Non-metal value or the number is very less when compared to the number of metals available in the periodic table. So, therefore, we can clearly say that in the periodic table, the left side portion if you observe is completely occupied by metals, and very topmost right side portion is occupied by non-metals. In between metals and non-metals we have metalloids, okay. I think you got a clear idea which are called as metals and which are taken as non-metals, how we can compare the properties of metals and non-metals, and then where exactly these metals and non-metals are positioned in the periodic table, etc. Right. I think we have enjoyed today's class. We will come up with some more interesting topic in the next class. Until then, have a nice time. Thank you.